Sega just announced a new Football Manager spin-off, and it's not being made by Sports Interactive. And it's made doubly bonkers by the fact it's just a week ago that I made this video talking about what would happen if Football Manager had a rival, and it didn't even occur to me that the rival might end up being Sega themselves, which, if you don't know the backstory of Football Manager, Sega owns Sports Interactive, the developer of Football Manager. Sega own Football Manager, and they've just announced a new game where they're going to compete with themselves. We're going to break down exactly what this new game is, figure out if it's actually going to be a new Football Manager competitor, and work out what it might mean for whatever the next Football Manager game ends up being. And we are still crossing our fingers, hoping that is going to be FM26. If you are new to the channel, off the back of this very strange breaking news, please make sure you subscribe, turn your notifications on. And of course, if you enjoy this kind of video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on it for me. Let me know you want to see me make more stuff just like this. Let's crack on, shall we? And this is the game in question, Sega Football Club Champions 2025, which, as you can see, is powered by Football Manager. And that, from what I can tell, is the only reference to Football Manager anywhere on this website. But it is there, and it is the logo. And it is interesting that it's there. And the game itself is based on this long-running game that Sega have been publishing for years in Japan. It's called, and I need to check this pronunciation, where is it on the screen? Sakatsuku, which I'm almost certainly saying wrong. There you go, there's your translation. Sega Pocket Club Manager, which is a mobile game, a light-hearted football RPG that, like I say, has been running in Japan and Asia for years and years and years. And you can download it on the App Store if you want to have a go on it. And as you can see from the screenshots, doesn't look anything like Football Manager. So this is a non-story, right? Yes and no, because for a start, they've got the Manchester City license, which the Japanese version doesn't have. And they've got that Manchester City license off the back of it being removed from Football Manager just a couple of weeks ago. The latest update to FM24 literally did one thing. It removed the licenses from Manchester City in the game. And here they are, reappeared. Now, I don't know for sure that means Sega have just moved it from Sports Interactive to this game. But it certainly looks like that's what they've done, which I can't imagine would have gone down very well. And then also, if you look at a couple of these screenshots that we have got access to, it certainly looks less of a light-hearted, cartoony mobile game than the one that it's supposedly based on. I mean, that looks... I mean, I wish that screenshot was able to go a little bit bigger, but it doesn't. I mean, we can zoom in a bit, but it's gonna pixelate it a little bit. That looks, dare I say it, better graphically than the Football Manager match engine. Obviously, we don't know what the physics are like because we can't see it moving, so it might be janky as anything, but it looks pretty good just from that one screenshot, and it's more screenshot than we've had for Football Manager's new match engine after all. And there we've got a few more close-up shots of what I guess is training. There's going to be a career mode that looks very FIFA-esque with the gentlemen in ties presumably doing contract negotiations and whatnot. You've got PvP modes, various versus modes. They've got licenses of the J-League, the K-League, Manchester City, and FIFA Pro. FIFA Pro is what gives you all of the player names. So even if they don't have all of the real club names, theoretically they should have all the right player names from all the right clubs. But most interestingly of all is the fact that this is not just a mobile game. It's going to be available on iOS and Android, but it's also on Steam, and there is already a Steam page listing, PlayStation 4 and 5, and there is already a PlayStation Store listing for it, and also the One Store and the Huawei Store, which I think are mobile things, presumably Asian mobile things that I've never heard of, that's for sure. But the fact that it's going to be on Steam and PlayStation suggests this is more than just a throwaway mobile game. Now, it is going to be free to play, optional in-game purchases, i.e. pay to win. So it's not being marketed exactly in the same way as Football Manager is. It's likely to be a slightly different kind of game, but there are already looking to be enough similarities for me to be mildly concerned because, and if I didn't highlight this enough in the intro, the big headline is it's got all of this. It's got Sega's backing. It's got the Football Manager logo in the logo, but it is nothing to do with Sports Interactive, as far as I can tell. And should probably point out at this point, haven't had any kind of heads up one way or the other from Sports Interactive, so they might have developed it for all I know, but if they have, they've not told any of their content creators, so no idea. Registration is open now for the closed beta as well, which I have applied to be a part of. If you click on this, you can see that you've got until the 13th of June to register for the beta. It is going to be limited to 15,000 people, which is roughly how many people will comment on this video going, Kev said beta, not beta like an American. It is beta. I'm British. And then that beta period will be from the 19th of June to the 30th of June. Like I say, I have applied. I think the beta itself is mobile only, and I mean, I imagine there's a good chance. The fact that I've not had anyone from Sega get in touch and offer me a copy the way they would for Football Manager suggests they're probably not going to let me in the beta either. But we'll see. If I get in, I will share as much as I'm allowed to share. I imagine it comes with a big fat NDA though. Not that I've been offered anything or signed anything so far, so I can dig into this as deeply as I want. And there's a trailer. Now, the trailer is full of copyright music and all the talking is in Japanese, so we're not missing anything by watching this on silent. I'll link to it down below if you want to watch the Japanese version of it. I mean, it doesn't tell us a huge amount. Obviously, we're getting a little bit of a history of football games on Sega consoles, going all the way back to the Sega Saturn. Who remembers the Sega Saturn? I think it's probably going to look a little bit better than this, but this is their evolution of their football franchises over the years, I guess. Is that Virtua Soccer? I vaguely remember that as well. And now we move forward to 2018. That is the game that this is based on, the very cartoony mobile app. But then this seems to be an evolution of all of that stuff combined. It's not just a relabeling, a rebranding of that cartoony mobile app. This is new. The legendary football simulation series is back. And I mean, they're really pushing the Manchester City license stuff. Obviously, they're pushing the Football Manager logo on there as well. If we just skip back a page to check this page, there is your Football Manager logo, confirmation that it is powered by Football Manager and is available on all of those different devices. And if we just drop back a little bit as well, I mean, it doesn't look like a cartoony little mobile app anymore. I mean, that's Phil Foden's back. So there's your Manchester City licensing. And I mean, it's clearly not going to be as in-depth as Football Manager. That looks very FIFA-y as well. But, I mean, it's not just a throwaway mobile app anymore. There's Erling Haaland, look. He doesn't look like that in Football Manager, does he? I often go to football matches, by the way, and hold up a big banner that says football club on it. But, I mean, the trailer doesn't tell us anything. It tells us about as much as a typical Football Manager trailer does. So it's very Sega, but it is due out, worldwide release this year. Which, of course, begs the question, what on earth are Sega up to? They already have the world's leading football simulation in Football Manager. And the way I see it, there are a few obvious motivations for Sega in this. Number one, it gets them into the very lucrative free-to-play sports market, which they're not in at the moment as part of Football Manager. In fact, Football Manager Mobile is hidden behind that Netflix account thing. So there's not even really a mobile version of Football Manager at the moment. So I guess you could argue they're just filling a gap that was there in their portfolio. And I would agree with if it weren't for the fact it was also going to be on Steam and PlayStation as well. It could also be seen as a way of just expanding the Football Manager brand globally and making Asia more aware of it. We only just got the J-League into Football Manager in FM24, and I'm looking at this very much through a Western lens of, they're taking our Football Manager and making a different game of it. You could easily just look at it from the other side, and like you can see from the trailer, this is a long-running franchise in Asia that has a huge amount of history, a huge amount of name recognition, and by slapping the Football Manager logo on it, it lends some credibility to Football Manager. So it could even be a reverse of the skies are falling reaction we've had from a few Football Manager Twitter accounts. And then, of course, you've got the financial gap that needs filling over at Sega by the fact that FM25 was cancelled. They have a Football Manager shaped black hole in their finances for the year. And this will go some way towards filling that gap. So from Sega, it all seems like a complete no-brainer. And I would like to think it means we're heading towards a world where we have a premium football simulation in the shape of Football Manager, which is on PC, it's on console, you pay to buy the game. FM26 will be the next installment, and it is the awesome Football Manager game that we've all come to know and love, which now has more credibility in Asia because it's been attached to this. And then they're also now covering the mobile market, the free-to-play market, which they weren't before, and hopefully they complement each other very, very nicely, grow both franchises, everybody wins. But of course, there is the risk that it doesn't quite work out that way, because it does give potential brand dilution of the Football Manager brand. I've spent enough time dealing with Football Manager fans over the years to know that the idea of monetization and microtransactions and free-to-play, pay-to-win stuff probably isn't going to go down very well. Certainly on this half of the globe. So I don't know how well this particular game will do in the West. Time will tell, I guess. And I don't know if the Football Manager name has enough recognition to make any kind of difference in Japan. Whether it leads to more people in Japan playing Football Manager, who knows? It'd be great if it did. But it does also risk confusing more casual players, because FM has spent 20 years now building a reputation as a premium football simulation game that you pay quite a lot for in app terms. When FM Mobile was still a thing, it would cost you most of a tenner to download. Now it's within your Netflix subscription, which is what, £10 a month for that. Football Manager has never been a cheap game to play on mobile, and obviously the PC, the console versions, even more premium than that. And you run the risk of people downloading this free-to-play game that has the Football Manager logo on it, thinking it's the new Football Manager because they're out of the loop, and they see that logo that they know and trust and recognise, and they have this free-to-play mobile game that's nowhere near what they were used to, and they're like, oh, well, new Football Manager's rubbish. I guess I'll go and do something else. Obviously, that's the kind of thing that could be mitigated by solid communication and transparency and marketing from Football Manager and Sega, which I'm sure they're planning to do. Never mind the fact that it could lead to some fans seeing this as Sega basically doing a money grab and prioritising getting some cash into the coffers over gameplay quality. Because, I mean, based on what I've seen, I'm assuming it's not going to be as good as Football Manager. It might be brilliant. I'll definitely play it. I'm looking forward to giving it a go. I can't imagine it's going to be as good as Football Manager, though. And let's face it, there is the historical precedent of stuff like this not ending very well. It certainly has that stench of IDOS 20 years ago forming beautiful game studios while Sports Interactive are still over here developing Championship Manager, and the publisher, the owner, put together a new team to make a rival game. And it ultimately leads to the split that saw Sports Interactive leaving, becoming owned by Sega, taking their code with them, the Championship Manager spin-off, complete disaster. It didn't turn out well for IDOS, that's for sure, and Championship Manager. Ultimately, it turned out okay for Football Manager, for Sports Interactive, for Sega. But, I mean, it could have just as easily gone the other way. And it is risky and could ultimately lead to that potential Sports Interactive Sega split that I speculated could be a thing in the video that I put out last week. And we have had a few days as a community to digest this now. The news of this broke on Saturday morning. I tweeted about it and got some immediate reactions, and lots of other people started tweeting about it, and it's been discussed in all the usual places. And the general reaction seems to be a lot of negative, it's a cash grab, it's monetization riddled, a lot of just ignoring it completely, and it's irrelevant to me because it's not Football Manager, so I don't care, with the occasional sprinkling of positive. Any alternative is a good alternative. We discussed it last week, sprinkled in. Me personally, I'm cautiously optimistic because I do believe, like I said last week, that any competition is good I did not expect the competition to come from within Sega, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that side of things develops over the next few weeks and months. And of course, it does lead me to question, what are Sports Interactive up to while all this is going on? Because they have been completely silent about all of this, and from what I can tell, they are not involved at all. Because on everything that I've read, they are not directly involved in this. The only suggestion that there is any Football Manager likeness at all on this is the fact that the logo appears on it. There's no mention of Sports Interactive anywhere, or any specific Football Manager game for that matter. So we have to start wondering, well, what does powered by Football Manager mean? What does Sega own and have rights over? And were Sports Interactive on board with this? Have they let Sega do this, or is it a case of they're owned by them, they do as they're told, and they're not very happy? We don't know, because again, they're still on radio silence. But I'm guessing it means this new game is going to have access to the Football Manager database, which again, we've talked about in a video recently, is a very valuable thing to have access to, and possibly some sharing of licenses as well. The K-League and the J-League and FIFA Pro are all licenses that Sports Interactive have through Football Manager. The Manchester City situation is a really interesting one because it drops out of Football Manager and immediately appears here. There's got to be a story there. And I mean, it's hard to interpret anything from Sports Interactive's silence because they've been silent since cancelling FM25. I hope it means that they're just letting Sega do whatever Sega are going to do, and they've got their heads down and they're focusing on getting FM26 out as the best Football Manager game they've ever made. And this is just noise and it won't matter and it'll be fine. And that's my hope of what is happening. But the longer we get no communication at all, the more frustrating it becomes and the more likely we are to do speculative stuff like this because we don't know, so we're going to speculate. And one of the things that we might speculate on is this an indication of Sega beginning to lose confidence in Sports Interactive and trying to cash in on their valuable Football Manager brand and valuable database asset in another way? That's a time will tell situation. And then of course we can put a positive spin on it. You can always put a positive spin on things. This could ultimately be of benefit to Football Manager, be of benefit to Sports Interactive. Because if this new game succeeds with that Football Manager logo slapped front and centre on it, it potentially brings in a whole new audience of casual mobile gamers to the Football Manager universe, which in turn, some of them might come over onto console, onto tablet, onto PC. That's got to be a good thing. And on the assumption that all is good in Sega and Sports Interactive towers, there's obviously potential for lots of sharing of data as well. Sports Interactive could learn valuable insights from their data from another game in their genre that they maybe didn't already have. For example, I'm sure FIFA Mobile drives people towards buying the console version of FIFA or EAFC or whatever these things are called now. So if this brings people into the top of a Sega football simulation funnel that Football Manager as a premium product is at the bottom of, and that bottom continues to grow, thumbs ups all round. Let's all go have pastries. So to summarise, I've pulled an awful lot out of a 1 minute long trailer and a very lacking in detail website and used that to speculate on some big potential positives and negatives. But the truth is, we don't really know until we get some more information. But I've had my fun speculating and I'd hate to deny you the same opportunity. So let me know down in the comments or over on the Discord. The link to that is in the description below. Let me know what you think about Sega launching a free-to-play potential Football Manager rival. Do you think it has the potential to help Football Manager long term? Or is it risking the Football Manager legacy and reputation that they've built up over the last 20 years or so, which to be fair has already been pretty damaged in the last year as it is? And from here, I will just continue to monitor how the situation progresses. If I get any more information, I'll make a follow-up video, and fingers crossed they let me in the beta and I can tell you all about it. But if you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for loads more Football Manager content. And thank you very much for watching.